Hi everyone, welcome to our video this evening on drivinglessonscork.ie. Our video this evening is on driving do's and don'ts. Now folks, just a couple of things on driving do's and don'ts. We won't be here all night. First of all folks, if you're going to be driving a manual transmission car, do use the clutch properly. Don't overuse the clutch. The clutch is used firstly to change a gear, secondly just before the car comes to a stop, and thirdly, if you need to use the clutch, you can use it in either first gear or reverse gear, but only if you need to use the clutch in first or reverse. If you can get away without it in first or reverse, that's grand too. But use it if you need it in first or reverse gear. I have had people before tell me that when they started using the clutch properly, that they saved a lot in terms of their fuel, because it's very fuel efficient to actually use the clutch properly. We trained this lady once, and that's what she told me, that her fuel, she noticed, was lasting a lot longer than it was previously when she wasn't using the clutch properly. The opposite to that was, one time I put about 10 euros of petrol into the car one day for a driving lesson with one person, and that should have done maybe 2 lessons. I did the 1 hour lesson with that person, and on the way back from the lesson, the fuel light came on again. That person was using the clutch completely improperly altogether. Another reason to keep using the clutch properly is, of course, maintenance of the clutch. If you overuse the clutch, it won't last as long as it should do, and therefore you'll end up paying for new clutch again before you should have to do so. Now, number 2, folks, on the do's and don'ts of driving is, do use the mirrors properly, folks. In this part of the world, for driving, you're expected to use the mirrors before you signal, then just before you do your manoeuvre. Whenever you're slowing or stopping, have a look behind you in the rear view mirror, and moving off in traffic, check your mirrors as well. If you're driving straight for a long time, you might also check them every 10-12 seconds you're driving along. But even that is a long time not to be checking your mirrors, you know. You could conceivably miss something coming up behind you all of a sudden in that 10 to 12 second space, but I suppose again, you can't be looking behind you the whole time, folks. You have to look ahead mostly and worry about what's ahead of you. But it's good to know what's behind you. I had a guy one time, unfortunately he ended up in a wheelchair as a result of not checking his right wing mirror when he was turning right at one stage. And I was now training him to drive in an automatic car with a set of hand controls. Simple as, folks, he just did not check his right wing mirror just before he turned right into a dwelling at one stage. That's all. Simple little mistake, and unfortunately he also had a head injury to boot, and unfortunately his friend died in the collision at the time. Sad story, but lads, that's what actually happens. If you're not looking properly, these things happen. Third thing, little tip I have for you on driving do's and don'ts is, never drive when you feel too tired. I've known several people now who've fallen asleep at the wheel. One lady told me that she woke up, the car was in the ditch, and the airbag had come out, and when she woke up, she thought she was home in bed in the pillow. Now, it's not funny, folks, at all. Her car was written off, she was okay, but she fell asleep at the wheel. I know another man, he was driving along the dual carriageway one day, and he fell asleep at the wheel, crossed the central median of the dual carriageway and crashed into an oncoming jeep. Now, both vehicles were written off. Luckily, both people survived the impact. But these impacts are scary, and nobody wants to have these things happen to them. The next thing I want to talk about is if you're driving and you're revving the car too loud, then possibly you need to go up a gear. It's not good to be revving the engine too loud. It's not fuel efficient, and therefore it's not good for the environment because you're using a lot of fuel. So if you're revving too loud as you're driving along, if the engine's revving too loud, if the road ahead is clear and straight, consider going up a gear at that stage. We all want to keep our environment as clean as we can, and revving the engine too much is not good. The next thing I want to talk to you about is people who maybe might be braking a little bit late, coming up to junctions and roundabouts. You should always try to go down the gears in good time. I have another video here on this channel, drivinglessonscork.ie, on going down the gears and using the gears properly. Okay, there's another video on that as well. So it's not good to be going up to stop line too fast. You know, what would you do if your brakes don't work? You know, I mean, like, can you really be 100% sure that your brakes will work 100% of the time if you're, or when you need them, you know? You don't want to be putting them to the test too often. Whereas at least if you start to slow down early, you might get an idea early on whether your brakes are actually working properly or not. So don't fly up to the junctions too fast. Gear down in good time, slowing down using the brake in good time, and you'll find out whether or not it's working properly. Also, another little thing as well, and this is my last little tip for you this evening, is maybe if you're driving a manual transmission car with the manual gearbox, obviously, try not to grab the hand or grab the gear stick with the fingers of your hand. When you're changing the gears, you should be able to do it by just using the palm of your hand very easily. It's just sometimes if you have a latch that you need to pull up, if you're ever going into reverse gear, if you grab the latch with the fingers of your hand, you might end up going into reverse gear when maybe you want to go into a different gear. So, you know, it's just a little thing to change the gears of the manual car with the palm of your hand. Pushing left on the gear stick to go into first or second gear helps also. Okay folks, that's it for this evening. If you like this video, do hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and maybe hit the bell notification too after you subscribe to our channel for notification of future videos on our channel. We like to do little videos from time to time to try and help people along with their driving. If you have any comments or queries, please do put them into the do comment below underneath this video in the comments section. So folks, until next time, that's all for now. Talk to you later. Thanks for listening.